Stop. Stop it. Stop making them sad.
Swastiastu, Asanteng Raja, and welcome back to another episode of Roger Yaps Better Overseas for
approximately 14.5 minutes.
Last time I did one of these, y'all asked for some lore about Natsuo's family drama, so ask and you shall receive. This man has graduated from deuteragonist to MC, so it's only fair we dedicate an entire video to his oh so complicated family dynamic. I love writing this dude's lore so much, guys, it's actively a problem. A problem that I am relishing in. For the sake of clarity, I feel it's best to work from the ground up, and by that I mean literally start from the beginning of Natsuo's family. In my last video I explained how he comes from a very prominent and important clan, so we're gonna dive deeper into that aspect of his lore because it's such an important and integral part of his character arc that, you know, I kinda have to explain it. Right to you about my partner because a lot of you guys demanded to hear more of his narration. Say hi, cariño.
Piali.
Many years ago, when the Hiberna had reached a devastating peak, the nation was racked with fear, plague, and death. Scared and desperate, the people reached out their hands to those in power for help, aid, anything, only to be met with prayers and empty promises. From all but one young man with a heart of the purest gold and an empathy for his people's suffering. A spark burned in that young man's heart, a spark that would inevitably burn into a fire so bright it would change the lives of many. In a world where money ruled, he ruled it well, and after favors were attained, he got to work. Utilizing his family's funds and influence, he spared no expense. Beginning in his home city, he made sure not a single common man, woman, or child suffered the loss of their reality alone. Medical facilities were funded with the best the country had to offer. Basic necessities were distributed, and his work reached every corner of the country and then some. With him, the people of the nation were given something they thought they had lost: hope. And this young man in question was Rokuro Yamamoto, someone history would come to know as the man of the people. And by his side in all of this, the love of his life. The woman who would become known as the Baroness, Reiko. Rokuro, ever the socialite, was responsible for many of the communal aspects of leadership. He'd meet people in person, facilitate relationships, fund and voice his support for charities that were not his own, and solidify that he was a man worth putting your trust in. Reiko handled much of the logistics, finances, organization, and occasional intimidation. She wasn't much of a people's princess. It wasn't an easy feat by any means, but regardless of the hurdles, their best ended up being enough. And with the birth of their eldest child, their city celebrated, as a new era of stability had been born.
I'm pretty sure I've said this somewhere before, but everything I write, draw, and post is always susceptible to change. I've learned to embrace the fact that things can and will change, and there is nothing wrong with retconning your ideas if you have a better one in mind. If I do any big overhauls, I will correct them in the description of each video with timestamps and notes and stuff, so going forward, just know everything is concept work and nothing will be 100% concrete unless I say so. Okay, where to start? Natsuo is such an interesting character for me to write. When writing a character, you're often told to think about their goals and their fears, and it's very important you have these aspects nailed down because these are the things that solidify who your characters are, because they're motivations for your characters. Their goal is what they're chasing after, the thing that pulls them through their story, while their fear is the thing that pushes them, the thing that keeps them running. It's not necessary to have them correspond to each other, but when they do, it motivates your characters in two separate directions. If your characters have none of these, they basically have no incentive to have a story. If you want your characters to be interesting, you have to give them something to live for. You have to give them a reason to be alive. So think about it like this when you're writing your blorbos. 1. What do they want, which is their goal? Number 2. What are they running from? Their fear. And 3. What do they need? The thing that will actually help them. It's very important to know that what they want and what they need are two completely separate things. For example, Natsuo's story revolves around the burden of expectation and being your own person. Natsuo has grown up in an environment where perfection is expected of him. He's the eldest son of an extremely important family, and if he fucks up, it doesn't just jeopardize him, but it jeopardizes everyone around him. His clan is a symbol of hope, and if he can't pillar that hope, he fails his one goal in life. His goal is to uphold the same foundation his grandfather did 50 years ago by being the perfect clan head. This goal is perpetuated by his fear of disappointing his family. The fear of destroying everything they've built because he's too weak to shoulder it by himself. Realistically, he doesn't have to shoulder it by himself. He shouldn't. But he's got it in his head that in order to be perfect, he has to be strong enough by himself. He's the reliable older brother, he's the independent son, he's the excellent student, and he is the perfect hunter. If he can't be any of those, then what kind of a clan head will he be once his father dies? If he loses that, he loses his identity. And to round out all of that, his needs are actually very, very simple. He needs to be his own person outside of his family, outside of the expectation that he was molded by. But he can't have what he needs. His journey to realizing that his needs are just as important as anyone else's is why I adore him. Also, because I don't know where else I'm supposed to put this part of the video, I'm just gonna plop it right here because it's my video and I can do whatever I want. I actually wrote a short pseudo one-shot about how all of this expectation stuff affected Natsuo as a child and still affects him as an adult. It's just a short 4,000 word character interaction between Natsuo and his childhood best friend Umeka, a character whom I recently added to the story and I adore very, very much. It's over on AU3 if you want to read it. I'll have it linked in the description. But yeah, while Natsuo does have an active support system after becoming a hunter in the form of his squadron, throughout his entire childhood, he essentially only had 2 people he could emotionally rely on, that being his sister and Umeka. Umeka and Natsuo are very close to the point that their families just low-key expect them to get married once they turn 25, despite Natsuo not swinging that way in the slightest. But he's so desperate to keep up with the expectations of those around him, he basically just surrenders to the idea of being in a lavender marriage with his best friend, an idea they're both relatively content with. It is, quite literally, the best worst-case scenario they both could be in. Honestly, what I wrote in that one-shot will give you all the context of their relationship, so go read it, please. I worked very hard on it. Alright, thanks. I think a pitfall some writers fall into, especially after the rise of parody culture during the pandemic, is not letting their characters have unlikable traits. Of course you want your characters to be likable to the audience, that is why people give a shit about them. But what I mean is that it feels like people nowadays are far too caught up in making their characters morally palatable rather than interesting. For the most part, I understand why. We live in a world where people do not understand fandom etiquette anymore, let alone the concept of do not like, do not read, or if you don't fuck with something, simply block and move on. Why is it so difficult for people to realize that? We exist in the same reality as Twitter's pancake waffle logic. We are not safe from this no matter where we go, unfortunately. I have seen so many artists and writers get harassed and bullied off of social media for daring to depict an uncomfortable topic, which includes bad people acting bad, apparently. Like, one time I saw an artist get cancelled for having an OC abusing another one of their OCs, where the depiction of the abuse is extremely symbolic and they got dogged on it for a quote-unquote romanticizing abuse. Like, we have lost the fucking plot, people. I am a huge advocate for the saying of art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. Like, why on earth do you think this is the logo for artistic theater? Like, some of you motherfuckers really be out here interacting with media and demanding people only depict happy, fun shit. As if the real human experience is ever that flowery. Listen, I get it. We can't help feel uncomfortable about certain topics, and the natural human response to being uncomfortable is to remove the uncomfortable thing in question. I know this. I've fallen into the mindset of problematic things shouldn't be portrayed before I realized that that is exactly how mass censorship happens. It's not a good mindset to have, generally speaking. I do not have the right to dictate whether or not something I don't like shouldn't exist. No one should. No one has that right. The only time something shouldn't exist is when it actively endangers people. Stories are not and should not be used as stellar and optimal examples of morality. They're scenarios for our brains to chew on. Humans use fiction as a way to discuss and dissect real-world problems in a realistic and unrealistic way within a controlled environment. And I think it's a disservice to yourself as a writer and to the arts as a whole if you're scared of depicting something bad because some twat on the internet thinks art can only depict happy, sugar, spice, and everything nice. I am so sick of this mindset. It's driving me fucking insane. Just because you write about uncomfortable topics or make evil, horrible, deplorable characters doesn't mean you yourself are a bad person. That being said, you have to do it with some level of sensitivity. You have to acknowledge that what you are depicting in your stories is a sensitive topic, and make sure you do as much research on it as humanly possible. Otherwise, you're gonna be the twat. A lot of things in life have nuance, okay? Nothing is completely black and white, and two things can be correct simultaneously. For example, somebody can be a great person. They can be generous, a great leader, and extremely kind to strangers, friends, and colleagues around them, while also being a horrible parent, abusive even. Humans are natural hypocrites, whether or not we want to acknowledge that. Like, my biggest example in this video is Eiji's entire character. He's an extremely flawed man, but he's not completely deplorable. He's a good person, and by good person I mean that his actions overall are good, the ones visible by the public at least. He cares deeply about the people under his command, he cares a lot about his family, his clan, the people who rely on him, and he genuinely cares and loves all his children very, very deeply. But him being a good person does not erase the fact that he was not a good father to his two eldest children. It does not erase the years of verbal abuse Kiyomi and Natsuo grew up with, and it certainly does not erase the fact that he is too much of a coward to look at his eldest son in the eye and tell him, "I am sorry," to apologize for the years of pressure he placed on Natsuo's shoulders. To his credit, Eiji isn't the only one who's doing this. All the clan elders placed their own expectations onto Natsuo, but Eiji chose not to tell them to fuck off and let his son be a child. He chose to contribute because he thought it was the only way to prepare his son for the burdens of being a leader. The burdens he now has to bear himself. Rokuro isn't free from this either, by the way. He is, again, a great person. After all, he is the pillar of hope, the man of the people. He is not a great father, however. The same goes for Reiko with being a mother. They raised Eiji in a very specific way that ultimately shaped the kind of parent he would be to Natsuo. Eiji only broke the generational trauma he put on his son by a very small margin because he recognized his mistake far too late. And instead of mending the relationship he already has with Natsuo and Kiyomi, he chose to start over. I had a few people ask if Natsuo feels any resentment towards his younger siblings because they're treated far better by Eiji than he and Kiyomi were. And the answer is no. Well, kinda. It's complicated. He does not hate Hideo or Hinata or Karue for having it easier. He's actually very relieved. What he does resent, though, is why on earth did it take both his parents having another child to finally recognize that how he and Kiyomi were raised wasn't right. Why on earth weren't they like this when they were kids? So they can change. It's just that he wasn't good enough of a reason to change. They both weren't. Kiyomi has enough forgiveness in her heart to heal from her childhood. She gets a lot of help from her husband, and she's a very forgive and remember kind of person. She understands her father was trying his best. She understands that her mother tried her best to break the cycle of physical abuse she herself experienced as a child. Kiyomi recognizes that, but Natsuo can't. He hates making eye contact with his father. He hates how much his body tenses up when he hears Eiji's voice raised by an octave. He hates the loving look Eiji gives his siblings when he's never seen his father smile that brightly at him a day in his life. He hates how he can't talk about how his family is behind closed doors. And even if he did, why the hell would anyone believe him? The Yamamotos are perfect, and so is Natsuo. So he'll simply grit his teeth and bear it, even if it kills him.
Hello, it's currently 5 AM in merry old England, and I
did not wake up early to record this. I actually been awake for far too fucking long, Jesus Christ. I had to re-record the outro because the old one was 2 months old and it bothered me, so we're re-recording this. But I am so fucking tired and I could not be asked to set up my microphone, so we're doing this on my phone, so apologies for the absolute drop in quality. Yeah, sorry this video was supposed to come out earlier this month. Like I was originally set to finish it mid-early-ish July, but then I got caught in a very old 10-year-old hyperfixation that I thought was dead. When I was editing the audio for this video, I kept looking back at the recordings and I went, wow, this country has absolutely destroyed my accent. It's probably doing it right now, I just don't notice it. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my lord. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna go touch grass now. Thank you to my Ocha tier members for your amazing support, and to everyone who has made me fan art but haven't had it displayed in the end credits. Please, 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 please email me your fan art to kemirii.fanart@gmail.com with the username you want me to credit you with. I've decided to do it this way for the sake of convenience because not everyone posts their fan art publicly, and I wanted to give an option to people who don't like posting to social media. I understand your concern. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I am going to sit in my garden for the next few hours and just absorb the oxygen of the outside world. I'll see y'all in the next video, whenever the hell that may be. Cheers!